away from him.
There.
Owen Adams ahead of everybody. It lays it in.
Nice finish. That's a big play right there. We haven't had many runouts like that, so that's big for the Potters.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to our MPTV Coaches Show. Ryan Lindley, Brian Dieters, talking about another fantastic week in Potters Athletics. And let's start with girls basketball. Girls off to a great start this year. Really playing well. One tough loss to a Pleasant Plains team. Came down to the wire. They lost right at the buzzer, but got back on track against a Canton team on Friday that honestly is expected to be a pretty solid team in the Middle Illini. Middle Illini actually has 5 ranked teams in girls basketball this year, so very competitive league.
I did not know that, and that's really interesting. It does speak to the level of play that we have here in this conference and in Central Illinois, and of course we really are, as it goes, one of the elite programs in the state, and that speaks to what Coach Becker has done.
Yeah, speaking of that, let's get right into it. We had an interview with Coach Becker, and so obviously he's always very gracious with his time, and every time I listen to him speak, and he's state championship winning coach ×4, I feel like I learned something about basketball. So let's go ahead and listen to an interview with Coach Becker.
The schedule doesn't typically work like this, but we're going to embrace the challenge of taking the show on the road and things like, when they were stuck on 13 points forever, I'm thinking, well, defense travels, rebounding travels. We were the first to the floor several times. Those hustle plays, that championship DNA, that kind of stuff travels on the road. So we're going to take the show on the road for a month and be back in January to Potter Dome.
Yeah, I appreciate you making us look smart, because it's a lot of the stuff that we were just talking about.
Well, maybe you were making me look smart.
I wouldn't go that far.
We let everybody know we didn't talk before the game, right? We didn't have that scripted, but it all worked out well.
Oh, good. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But honestly, one thing I wanted to mention, and I thought it's you've already got at it, but handling the Lincoln press, right? Because you know what they're going to do. It's in the DNA of Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Girls basketball, boys basketball. You just arrive in the town of Lincoln, they teach you to play 1-2-2. But I thought being effective against that, opening the game, you hit them, and suddenly it was 9-2 or something like that, and it was almost like they didn't know what had happened.
Yeah, we had a couple of turnovers early, but we got off to a strong start for sure. And our girls are shooting it confidently and free of mind, and we worked on it. It's hard to simulate. They play that since they learn what a basketball is. They're playing the ball press, so they're very well schooled. And you can tell, Coach Nyson even mentioned, you can tell that group, they didn't see the floor a lot last year, but they went toe-to-toe with the best starting lineup in the state last year, and they were physical, and they caused us a little bit of problems with just the physicality up front, pressuring the ball. There was a few traps, but they really got after us a little bit. I think we had to make some adjustments to that, but I thought we did a good job of just taking care of the ball. It's a press that's not really designed to turn you over. It's like waiting for you to turn.
Exactly.
It's like you've got to pick it apart a little bit, be secure, make the right pass to the open kid, and we didn't really do anything fancy, but we did a good job getting into the middle, and the kids caught in the middle, made the next play, and I was proud of them for how we handled it.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was great. Like you said, just dissected it, right? No dribbles or virtually no bounces. Just get it, see what you got, reverse the ball, get it the middle, look. And then Paige Selke was the lucky recipient of just basically being wide open there 4 or 5 times. And the thing, you can be open, but someone's still got to pass you the ball, which are girls, right? So that was a big deal.
But they're sharing it.
That's what I like. Just offensively, really good ball movement, good shot selection, crashed the boards, got a lot of second chances, but just good unselfish, good teamwork basketball. And that's what it's all about.
Yep.
As we talk about, you've got 3 primary scorers, right? Probably your 3 girls with more of the size. So it's seeing Julia Laufenberg, a lot of other girls step up and start contributing. And as they gain confidence, that's what we're going to need, right? Because you got to have 4 or 5 legit scorers out there. They don't have to get you double digits, but they got to be out there to get you 6 or 8 points every night.
We had several that maybe our big, Katie hit 2 big threes from the top. They gave Julia without hesitation, knocks one down from the corner. We're trying to get kids to fulfill their role, and they're doing that, and hopefully we can just bottle it up and stay healthy, keep getting a little bit better every day.
Yeah, you had a lot of players in that 6, 7, 10-point range. Obviously, Paige led the way. She had 17. But
she's off to a great start.
Yeah.
She's been dominant the first 3 games, and I don't know. You don't even think she's a sophomore. Playing much more growing up than that.
Absolutely. No, we've been really impressed with her, with everybody. But I think, to your point, right, the way that they shared the ball, there was one play, I think it was Paige hit a three, and the pass was from Katie, and she immediately points to Katie and says, you gave that to me perfectly. I thought that summed it up really well.
That's fun. That's fun. I think they're pretty connected at this point, and they're just going to keep growing in their trust for each other, and that chemistry is just going to get better and better. And, I mean, they're unselfish kids. They're competitive. They've got a lot of good things going. The culture is very strong right now, and it's a credit to our kids. And that locker room is a positive place to be in. And it was nice to have, we've had a couple of kids that have been sick, and we haven't seen Izzy Ripka in weeks. And so we had a full, they weren't all dressed, but they're on the bench tonight and with each other, which was fun. So hopefully we can keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, it's nice to see us. Lincoln's been a good team the last 2 years, right? And now it's good to see that Target kind of come back to Morton's back. That's a good thing, right? You always want to be that team that everybody's out there to beat.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure. I mean, we're going to be competitive, but our conference will start up next Friday, and I think it's a lot of parity this year in the conference. There's a lot of teams that are feeling pretty good at this point with some of these early season games, and our conference teams are winning. So it'll be any given night, it seems like, but we should be in that mix.
And so, I mean, he mentions it obviously in the interview. In the first question, the first question got a little bit cut off, but I mentioned the idea that they're on the road now until January 3rd. And so that's one little probably challenging aspect of the schedule. And we know he'll adjust against state champion 4 times, but that's a bit tough when you play essentially a month of games away from home.
Yeah, it is, but I guess you have to. It's how do you sell that to your team? How do you twist that into a positive? And I know Coach Becker will, but it's all about facing that adversity. And then on the other end of it, you're a better team, and now you get to the benefits of that coming back home as you get closer to the postseason run. So it'll be exciting to see how the kids do there.
Yeah, and I do think that's a great point. You think about it, right? They'll get 4 out of their last 5 conference games will be at home, and that is the payoff of spending December mostly on the road. So. Good in a tough conference.
Yeah, you're right, and I wouldn't say we're an inexperienced team, but we are young.
Yes.
And so with that said, I think that you hope and expect to certainly be better come the end of January than you are here at the beginning of December.
Absolutely, and let's stay in basketball for now. We'll talk boys basketball. I mean, tough loss on Tuesday against Peoria High, 2-point loss, 33-31, but just another example of how competitive the boys' schedule has been here in the early going.
Yeah, so that's what Ryan and I were just talking about before we got on here, and that's huge. We talked about that a little bit last week, but particularly in basketball, I think I alluded to my experience coaching soccer. Play the big boys and play them early and learn about yourself and allow your team to understand what you can do well and what you need to work on to grow, and that's exactly what's going on. I mean, all tough competitive games from what I understand, particularly the other night. I know it was a low-scoring affair, and ran into one of the varsity guys in the hallway, and they were upbeat, and they know that they want to win, but I think the team understands the significance of playing these tough games early, and the fact that they're bought in and get that's huge.
Absolutely.
So keep riding it. Obviously, there's some tough games coming up in the conference, but I think we're going to be right there to fight for the championship.
Absolutely. Play Metamora at Illinois Wesleyan in the Shirk Center on Friday. That's actually a doubleheader. Girls game first, boys game second. But again, I mean, another tough team, but you're going to learn from it, and hopefully maybe the payoff is, a couple tough losses. This Metamora team, they maybe haven't faced quite as much competition yet. Maybe it's a payoff for our guys.
Have to wait and see.
Absolutely. We'll have more on that as we get into next week's show. Let's talk a little bit of wrestling here. Wrestlers went up to McLaughlin.
Better for us to talk about it than actually wrestle.
That's a good point. Although, I mean, again, at least maybe you know a little bit about wrestling with your father having coached it. I don't really know anything. The only thing I know about wrestling is it's a heck of a tough sport. Yeah. And our guys were fantastic this Saturday at Joliet at the McLaughlin Invitational. 3rd place overall as a team. 6 wrestlers placing in, I believe, 1st or 2nd in their weight classes. So just a really good weekend for our wrestling team.
Yeah, it's alive and well. You see it in the attitudes and the numbers. The kids are, walking in the hallways with their shoulders back and feeling confident and proud about what they're doing. And you said it, and we did allude to this last time we talked about wrestling. What a demanding physical sport. And they work really hard. They practice with a tremendous amount of intensity, which is necessary. So congratulations, guys, last week, huge performances there, and bodes well for heading into the part of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And they got conference starting as we're filming this tonight against, they believe it's East Peoria and Pekin in a dual conference meet. It'll be this evening. Again, more on that in next week's show. I got one last thing before we wrap it up, and it's a little bit of a trivia question for you. And I did not tell you we were going to do this,
exciting.
but if I told you there was a Morton team that in its existence had not lost a regular season match, would you be able to identify what that Morton team is?
Wrestling.
It is not wrestling. It is our bowling team. Our bowling team.
Okay, you had me on the wrestling.
Yeah, I know. I got you. And I didn't warn you that I was going to do this. But our bowling team just got off a victory over Taylorville. And they have not lost and bowling's a little bit different because you play in-season tournaments and what I guess I'll call one-on-one matches. They have not lost an in-season one-on-one match in the program's existence. Now, fair point that the program has only existed for about a year and a half, but still, I mean, I think it's a pretty cool feature.
Well, keep it up. Keep rolling those strikes, Steve. Is
that's the thing. That's a thing we can say. Yes, we want our bowlers to keep rolling those strikes. Right. Boys and girls bowling, both obviously fantastic, and Coach Burdett and Coach Tucker doing great work there. I'm not really much of a bowler myself, but maybe we'll get a chance to talk to either the coaches or maybe Aiden Lamar, who I think we had on talk football earlier or this fall, but I know he's one of their top bowlers. Yeah, so maybe we'll get Aiden in here in the next couple of weeks to talk to him.
I like the shoes.
Yeah, it's unique.
One of the perks.
It is indeed. With that said, I think it's time to wrap up this week's show. So, once again, Friday night, boys and girls basketball at Illinois Wesleyan in the Shirk Center. If you're looking for something to do, it's a 6 p.m. start over there. Boys basketball is back home in the Potter Dome on Tuesday. They host Pekin. That one will be available on MPTV and the MHS Network if you want to stay home and watch it. Troy Dowell and I will have the call on that. So, for Brian Dieters, I'm Ryan Lilly. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care.